It's Jill Bennett on Brooklands Radio.
Brooklands Radio believes your health matters.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Jill Bennett here, and I'm back again for this month's Your Health Matters. September is Gynecological Cancer Awareness Month, and this is a national recognition that was established by the Foundation for Women's Cancer in 1999. Each year in the UK, over 21,000 women are diagnosed with a gynecological cancer, and this special awareness month provides an important opportunity to draw attention to this very, very delicate and important women's health issue. And it also is a chance to offer vital information on risk cancers, warning signs and prevention strategies. On this month's Your Health Matters, we have got some amazing guests, lots of lovely, brave people who've come to talk to us. And also we've got one lovely lady who's been with us before. So we have Dr. Alexander Norman, Christina Uwins, Gemma Hodgkiss, Pandy Dean, Vicky Allen, Helen Ravenko and Sylvie Alsopp. We're going to start first of all by talking to Dr. Norman. Now he is the primary care lead for NHS Surrey and Sussex Cancer Alliance. So please, Dr. Norman, tell us a little about the Cancer Alliance and your roles, please.
Hi, many thanks for having me on, Jill. Thank you for the kind introduction. So I am actually a GP in Cobham in Surrey. It's my day job and my bread and butter. But I also, because of my specialist interest in cancer, have been at Surrey and Sussex Cancer Alliance for the last 3 years as the primary care lead, working with a colleague in Sussex, but I mainly look at and try and support Surrey. So we try and support education of GPs and primary care, as well as developing pathways to try and support earlier diagnosis of cancers across the board, as well as then supporting primary care in supporting the patients who are living with and beyond cancer, who have hopefully had successful treatment. And so it's lots of things. It's education, it's pathway design, it's helping those patients live a better life through diagnosis and living with and beyond.
Great. Dr. Norman, how many gynae cancers are there altogether?
So there's lots of subtypes. So there's probably about 5 gynecological cancers, but 3 main ones really. So there's cervical, endometrial or uterus or womb, and ovarian are the 3 main gynae cancers. They're also vulval and vaginal, but they're a lot rarer. And so we really focus perhaps mainly on the top 3 of cervical, endometrial and ovarian, which unfortunately have the largest numbers of diagnoses.
Could you share with us some sort of insight on signs and symptoms and obviously the importance of early diagnosis?
Sure. So they're all slightly different, although there's a lot of overlap with them. If you're okay, I'll just break them down individually of the main 3. So cervical cancer is mainly, unfortunately, younger women that present, and it's often abnormal bleeding. So bleeding in between periods when you wouldn't expect bleeding to be happening, or painful intercourse and bleeding after intercourse. Those sorts of things might lead you to say, I think I need a checkup and go and see your GP, or indeed just some discharge that seems different than normal. It's always worth checking it out. Anything slightly different. And of course, with cervical, we're very lucky that we've got an excellent national screening programme. And so that really helps with our early detection before you get any signs or symptoms. So it's really important for ladies to attend those. And that has been going on throughout COVID as well, making sure that they continue to attend, because screening is when you really get the early diagnosis before symptoms come. The endometrial or womb or uterus is unfortunately the largest number of diagnoses of cancer. It's a little bit older. It's generally the 40 to 75-year-olds, and about 10,000 patients, almost 10,000 patients, are diagnosed every year in the UK, of which about 90% of those, it's post-menopausal bleeding. So after the menopause, And then that can be a little bit tricky to know exactly when you've gone through the menopause. That perimenopausal state is quite tricky. But generally, any abnormal bleeding after about 12 months of having gone through, and that's 90% of those cancers are picked up. So any bleeding at all after the menopause, we really advocate get down to your GP, get down to your primary care and say, hi, I need this getting checked out. And then sadly, ovarian is again about 7,500 patients get diagnosed every year. It's generally an older population, with the majority being in that sort of 75 to 80-year-old. And it's a lot harder to diagnose, unfortunately, and often it's a later stage because the signs are so vague, to be honest. So it's abdominal pain, it's bloating, it's a feeling of fullness, maybe even wanting to wee a bit more. And then, of course, there's worrying signs that we always think about: weight loss. Those signs, again, absolutely get yourself down to your practice and explain to them. And there are some excellent tests that can rule in and rule out, because most of the time it isn't. But unfortunately with ovarian, we don't have those early signs, and it's been a little bit unfortunate. You might have seen in the press about 6 weeks ago or so, maybe a couple of months ago, that trying to do screening for ovarian cancer at Imperial University just didn't prove fruitful, which has been a real disappointment. Ovarian cancer is something close to my heart, and I really want to improve getting that early diagnosis in those patients. So hopefully that's a little bit of an insight of the three main cancers in terms of symptoms. That's
really useful. So the uterus and the the uterus and the, my mind's just gone completely blank. And the ovarian, generally they're in the older lady, but they can occur at any time, can't they?
I've learned over my years of being a GP is to never be absolute. You absolutely, unfortunately, there are always outliers. There's always people that, oh gosh, you're a bit too young, but sadly, and we are seeing a shift in some cancers to younger age groups, as again we've seen in the press recently, unfortunately. But yes, no, absolutely, you should never discount just because of age. But the majority generally for the uterus, womb cancer and the ovarian, it is in the older population, over 40s generally.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Christina. So Christina Uwins has been on the show before. She is a GRACE researcher and fundraiser. Christina, please tell us more about your role again, because there will be people listening who didn't hear your first interview. And give us an update on the exciting MIRRORS research, please.
So my role is a bit of a mouthful. I'm a senior clinical research fellow in robotic gynecological oncology. So essentially I have a dual role. I have a clinical role as a Gynae cancer registrar fellow. And I also have a role as a researcher, and that's where I've been running the MIRRORS trial. So the MIRRORS study is looking at, can we provide the same surgery that women with advanced ovarian cancer require using a robotic platform, so using the Da Vinci robot. Typically, women with advanced ovarian cancer will have surgery that requires a big cut down the middle of the tummy, and that would either be before or in the middle of chemotherapy. Now, for the MIRRORS study, what we've been doing as part of our feasibility study, so is this possible, do women want it, is in women who have chemotherapy first and then are considered for surgery in the middle of their treatment. If they have a pelvic mass less than 8 centimeters, we've offered them the option of having the robotic surgery. And if they agree, we'd pop a camera in, assess whether they're suitable for robotic surgery, and then proceed either robotically or open, depending on the findings. And at any point, if open surgery was required and we'd started robotically, we'd then convert to open. And, it's been much better than we even expected it to be. A much larger proportion of ladies have been suitable for robotic surgery. Women have, almost 100%, not quite, but, have volunteered to be as part of the study, which is incredible, because for a surgical study, you'd be lucky if you get like 25% of women agreeing to join in. And, women have seen the benefits of having the increased recovery, etc. And, we went forward with this trial feeling that it would be of most benefit to the elderly and the frail who maybe wouldn't respond well, or it would take a very long time to recover. But actually we found it's the younger women who've really appreciated the lack of a big interruption in their lives. So they've been able to come into hospital and go home after 1 or 2 days rather than be in hospital for 6 to 10 days with long intensive care surgery. So we've been amazed at actually how well it's been received and how well it's gone. We've closed our recruitment. We're in the follow-up period, so we're just tying all the loose ends, and we hope to be reporting the initial results towards the end of this month, end of October, around about this time. So it's quite exciting. And then the second bit that we've been doing is something called our Mirrors survey, where we've been trying to get feedback from professionals, but also patients themselves and their loved ones, so their partners, their family, their friends, anybody who's got, well, essentially anybody who has any interest in ovarian cancer, and really getting their views on robotic surgery. So what do professionals think of the idea of using robotic surgery for advanced ovarian cancer? What do women think? Or what do husbands think? What do family members think? Is this something that people want? And it's a quick online survey, and we're keen to get as many responses for that as possible.
Fantastic. So it's gone really, really well. And you can understand really, can't you? Because if you have something wrong with you, you just want to get better as soon as possible. And if this speeds up that time, then it's all for the greater good, really. I understand you're training for the Royal Parks Half Marathon as well.
Yeah, so there was a space needing filled, and for some reason I decided it'd be a good idea to sign up for that with 6 weeks to train. So usually you get 16 weeks to train for a half marathon, and yeah, I'm doing it in 6. I'd run 4 times this year up until I agreed to do this. So my training has kicked off with a vengeance. For somewhat selfish reasons, I probably need a little bit of a push to get back into it. It's something that I really valued in my life. I found running great mentally and physically. It's good stress relief. And Grace is a fantastic charity, so it was sort of a win-win.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking I'm a bit nuts, but yeah, training's going well.
Oh, well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. We wish you the very best of luck with that. We've also here got Gemma with us. So Gemma Hodgkiss is Grace's fundraising and communications manager, and I'm very grateful to her. We all are at Brooklands because she has arranged all of our wonderful guests for us today. Gemma, please tell us all about Grace and your role there.
Thank you. I have to say my job is the easy bit, and actually it reflects what I do at Grace. It's bringing the right people together to do brilliant things to improve the future for women with gynae cancer. So today is a brilliant example of all those fabulous people that we work with. Grace was founded by Mr. Simon Butler Manuel to help answer the questions that affect a woman's likelihood of surviving her gynae cancer, but also how to improve that quality of life beyond a diagnosis. So in terms of GRACE stands for Gynecological Research and Clinical Excellence. And from laboratory-based research into why some women respond better to chemotherapy than others, to the benefits of faster recovery after surgery, as Christina has spoken about, to even funding specialist equipment to improve the accuracy of delivering radiotherapy. For over 15 years, Grace has been really committed to pushing forward improvements in treatment and recovery and survival rates for women diagnosed, as well as raising their awareness of symptoms, which in this month is particularly apt to be able to talk about it. And then my role at Grace works with our clinicians, with our fantastic supporters, with our researchers, to bring all those bits of the pie together and make as much noise about the fantastic work that we're doing and the brilliant people who make it possible.
Fantastic. Gemma, thank you so much for talking to us. You're doing a great job there, and I know you work with Nicola, who I've had lots of dealings with in the past as well, so you've got a brilliant team there, and I'm sure everyone here is really, really grateful. We've also got with us today Pandy. Pandy Dean is a Grace woman and a fundraiser, and she's raised an amazing amount of money and had her own journey with cancer. So Pandy, tell us about your journey and how it led you to doing some fundraising.
Hi Jill. So I was diagnosed in September 2016. I went to the doctors. I was one of the lucky ones, actually. I went to the doctors just in August, I think 5 weeks before, no more than that. And it was a bit of a whirlwind. I was very lucky, I think, after speaking to many other women, that I was taken notice of straight away, considering that I had no symptoms whatsoever. I was still teaching, I was working 6 days a week. I would teach dance most nights or do other classes. I was still running and walking. I was very, very fit. And the only reason I really went to the doctors is I was going through the menopause and it was a bit pants. It was starting to get a bit of a pain in the bum. So I just went to see her, and I didn't go and see the doctor a lot. I was very blessed. I was very rarely ill. So thinking back, I had a little bit of bloating, but vanity, I thought it was just sort of the middle-aged spread. And if I'm honest, I just didn't like the bloating. I wanted to get rid of the bloating. I think I wanted some magic pill to make me slim again. So, and she said, and that must have just hit a chord with her, because she referred me straight away for a transvaginal scan, which took 2 weeks. I went along, didn't think anything of it. I wasn't concerned in the least. I was too fit. And in less than 24 hours, I had a phone call from the doctor saying that they'd found one mass was 10 centimetres, and they wanted to investigate further. And, still at that point, I thought either, well, they've got the scans muddled up, or they've, I don't know, it was just bonkers. And I really didn't think anything more of it until I went back. And I just waited for the letter. I told my husband, obviously, but I didn't speak to friends because I couldn't quite absorb that I would have anything wrong with me at all. So then went along to Frimley Park and spoke to another doctor. Then it sort of started to hit home, maybe there was something wrong here, that they hadn't got the test muddled up with somebody else. And it was just a whirlwind of events then. It was so quick into surgery that I had at the Royal Surrey at St Luke's, and Mr. Chatterjee, who's one of the associates of Grace, I think, and went into surgery, came out of it, a week in hospital, intensive care, and then home. And then 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with stage 3C carcinosarcoma. So it had a good old run round the insides. It had gone, onto my bowel, my bladder, my appendix, my omentum, every ovaries. It was just so. The shocking thing for me was that I was so well. I couldn't believe that it had sort of gone, and it had spread. I don't know how long it had been there. I've no idea. And then from that into chemo for 6 months, 5-6 months of chemo. That was tough, chemo. And then out the other side. And it was while I was having my chemo that Mr. Chatterjee, got me in touch with Grace. So, and it was the first marathon, the first 3 peaks then, I think, that was coming up. And I did that. And originally he'd said to me, there's a 6 mile, is there, Gemma? I think that there's 3, isn't there? So there's a 6 miler, a 13 mile, and a 26 mile. So he said, you can just do the little one because you're just out of chemo. That was never going to happen. So I did the 26 mile. Do you know what? That was a big moment for me, because I thought, I'm going to get through this. And because my prognosis was pretty pants, I have to say. They said they gave me a year, maybe 3 years if I was lucky. And this September, I'm 5 years. On September the 27th, I'm 5 years free. Yes. So we've done 3 more marathons since then, haven't we? And lots more to come. I'll speak to you in another 5 years, at 10 years, and tell you I'm getting on. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think it's sentiment to you and your fitness level and your health level that you've got through that relatively easily.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think my saving grace, the hardest thing I had to do, and also the best thing that I did, was that I didn't start Googling things. I just left it. And I'm used to having my own business and I'm not a good one for sharing things around. So, but right at the very beginning, I thought, I'm just going to leave my team, my oncologists and my nurses to I put great trust in them. I put all my trust in them so that I could focus on my mental state, because I thought this is where it's going to affect me more than physically, really. So I just did everything they told me to do to the letter. And then I just went out and had a good time and, drank wine and lots of loveliness like that. But that was the best thing I did. And I had a great team. The Royal Surrey was just amazing. Fantastic. Really good. Yeah.
Which is brilliant. And I think the positive mindset as well is key in all of this.
Saving grace, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to take a quick ad break and we'll be back after these messages.
Brooklands Radio believes your health matters.
Hi, this is Helen at the Marianne's Community Cafe opposite Debenhams in Staines. We're busy serving teas, coffee and light refreshments, plus some delicious cakes daily. We also have a welfare benefits advisor for all members of our community who will help with confidential advice and support with form filling on welfare benefits. And our trained team will help with all aspects of care support and more. When you bring a friend, their first regular tea or coffee is on us, based on 1 visit per day. Find us on Thames Street in Staines. Marianne's is operated by Surrey Disabled People Partnership. Find out more on sdpp.org.uk.
I'm so glad you're open.
Thank goodness you're here.
Do you ever close?
Did you know the pharmacy at 20 Church Street, Weybridge is open 100 hours every week to meet your immediate medical needs? We're here for you from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. weekdays, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Saturdays, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sundays. Our friendly and knowledgeable team can provide you with the advice you need, as well as helping you with repeat prescriptions, all the over-the-counter products you would expect, and if you can't get in to visit us, we will deliver to you. The Pharmacy, 20 Church Street, Weybridge. We're here when you need us, 100 hours every week.
If you love film music of all kinds, then Hunter's Hollywood Hits and Britflix is the show for you. Every Thursday, escape into the exciting world of the movies with soundtracks that transport you right into the films. From special shows dedicated to legendary composers to theme shows dedicated to different genres, you can hear a mixture of classic themes as well as well-known songs that feature in films. So, all you film fans, be sure to catch Hunter's Hollywood Hits and Britflix with me, Suzanne Hunter, every Thursday at 9 p.m, only on Brooklands Radio.
It's Jill Bennett on Brooklands Radio.
So welcome back. We are talking about September and it being Gynecological Cancer Awareness Month. And we've got lots of amazing people on here that have been all put together for us by lovely Gemma from Grace Charity. We've just spoken to Pandy, who's raised an extremely large amount of money for Grace. And we're going to talk now to Vicky Allen. Please tell us your story and how you became involved as a Grace fundraiser.
Hi there. Yes, I've known Pandy for over 20 years and we were both fitness instructors together. We had a Zumba business together, so we would teach together on the stage together, and we did loads of dancing and shows and all sorts of stuff. So that's why it was such a shock when we found out about Pandy, because she's one of the fittest people I know. So it was a real, obviously a shock to her, but a shock to everyone around her, because everyone could not believe how such a vibrant and amazing fit woman could suddenly, take a turn and have, such a serious cancer. And then, so I sort of was there, hopefully, to support her through when she had her surgery. I remember just after she had her surgery, she showed me a piece of paper which had all of the bits that they'd taken out of her. I think it was a list of 14 things. And we were like, we didn't even know we had them. We didn't even know what these items were that they've now taken out. Anyway, so she was obviously quite poorly, very poorly. And then the chemo went ahead, and it's really upsetting as a friend to see someone so full of life, so very, very ill. And she really was, quite ill. Old. Anyway, so Pandy has done so much fundraising for Grace. I know, is it Gemma, you know, don't you, how much? I mean, she has done 3 marathons, she has done dance shows, she has done Strictly Come Dancing. It's just, you know, I don't know how much it is, but it must be tens and tens and tens of thousands of pounds. So,
if I jump in, the Three Peaks walk that you did last weekend, Pandy, I think tips you over the £40,000 mark for Grace.
Wow!
So it is a huge amount.
That's amazing, isn't it, Vicky? You should be very, very proud of yourself on all counts, on all fronts. You've done an amazing job, and how lovely to have Vicky by your side as a really, really good friend. That's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And was it the Wonky Wanderers? Tell us about the Wonky Wanderers.
So, do you want to do that?
Oh yeah, I had before I got ill, I had a shop, an interior design shop called the Wonky Donkey Shop, just because I love donkeys, to be fair, and I couldn't think of a name for the shop. So we called it the Wonky Donkey Shop. So after that, everything that I seem to do has got some connection to a donkey in it, the Wonky Donkey. So the Wonky Wanderers seemed apt to call it the Wonky Wanderers. And we, last year, I think when we did it, we had 32 Wonky. Were we called?
It must have been the year before.
Oh yes, of course, because of lockdown. Yes, so the year before we did it, we had 32 Wonky Wanderers. So it was just a name that sort of carried on from the shop, the Wonky Donkey, the Wonky Wanderers. But it's a nice name.
It's a lovely name. Yeah, it's a fun name. No, I think that's brilliant.
But it is a very long way. 26 miles.
It is a long way. I have run a marathon. Yeah, it's yeah, I was much younger when I did that. Funnily enough, last weekend I did one of the Macmillan mighty hikes of the Jurassic Coast, and I was told by my brother-in-law who'd done it before that it wasn't that hilly. He's going to be murdered when I see him next weekend. I'm not sure my hips have recovered quite yet. Let's have a word with Helen then. So Helen Ravenko is another amazing Grace woman. She's a trustee and a fundraiser. Helen, tell us about your journey and how this led to you being involved with Grace.
Well, at the start of 2018, when I was in my early 60s, I developed a colourless discharge. There was no obvious sign of bleeding and also a sharp pain. So my GP referred me to Royal Surrey County Hospital, where many, I think actually most, of the Grace clinicians work. And in April of the same year, I was diagnosed with endometrial cancer. Now, I think I'm probably an example of the benefits of early diagnosis, because I was told that the only treatment I was likely to need was a hysterectomy. So no chemo, no radiotherapy, and that turned out to be the case. And the surgery was carried out, well, first of all, it was keyhole. So I just have 4 very small incisions, and it was also performed using a robot. And I spent 1 night in hospital, and I didn't experience any pain or even any discomfort afterwards, which even now I find absolutely amazing. And that meant that the really big thing for me during the recovery period was not overdoing it, because I did feel very, very well. And also, once the initial shock of the diagnosis wore off, I didn't feel especially stressed, which is not the sort of thing I ever expected to say about a cancer diagnosis. And obviously, a really big part was knowing from a very early stage that my treatment was probably going to be very limited. But also, I think the speed at which everything happened really helped. And that goes right back to my initial visits to the GPs. I saw 2 people, because I go to the doctor very rarely. I don't have a sort of a regular GP. And they were both very quick off the mark, referring me to the hospital. The first referral was for a transvaginal ultrasound, and then to see a consultant. And the consultant I saw was Simon Butler Manuel, so the founder and now chair of Grace. And the surgery, so the hysterectomy, happened just, I think it was 6 days after diagnosis. So I think the order of events was something like diagnosis late Friday afternoon, surgery on the following Thursday. And when I said that to some friends, they just assumed that I must have been having private treatment, which wasn't the case at all. I think it was just the NHS operating at its absolute best. And something else that helped to reduce the stress levels was that everyone who was involved in my care was not only highly professional, but also very supportive. And that, I think, makes just an absolutely huge difference. And given that I was expecting a good outcome from the treatment, I found it pretty easy to tell friends and family, and they tended to take their lead from me. So it was all fairly low-key, matter-of-fact, which again is not the sort of thing I would really have expected from cancer diagnosis. Now, as regards getting involved with Grace, as soon as I was fit enough to start training, I decided I was going to do a 25-mile walk. And this was actually for Action Challenge. And I really pinched the idea from one of the Grace associates, Dr. Kavita Maduri, because she had done the walk the year before. And I thought, well, if Kavita, with a full-time and a half job, can find the time to train and do it, I should be able to do that. So I did my first long walk for Grace, which was the 25-mile Windsor Walk. And I was keen to support the charity because I wanted to be involved with an organisation that was working to raise improve outcomes for women with gynae cancers, especially in what seems to be a rather underfunded area of research. And it was also a way of saying thank you to the Gynaecology department for the excellent care I'd received. And then in 2019, I was invited to be a trustee. And because I'd been under the care of Grace Clinicians, I feel that I have a very sort of personal connection to the charity. And it's nice to be more involved, especially more involved with the decision taking. And now and again, I also have a chance to use the legal knowledge that I've gained from being a solicitor and law lecturer to advise the charity. I am still also doing some fundraising, and in June of this year I did another, this was my third fundraising walk for Grace, and this one was 30 miles, and that all went really, really well. And that was just something I made up myself. Action Challenge walks were postponed twice because of COVID, and I decided if I was going to do 30 miles, I wanted something easy. So I went for a pancake flat walk along the River Wey, which was actually really good fun.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah, I like nice flat walks as well. I'm not sure why I chose to do the Jurassic Coast. That's brilliant, Helen. Well, it just goes to show, doesn't it, how, if you have symptoms and you notice it, and it can work like clockwork, but I don't know whether, when you are really fit, Pandy, it is unusual, I guess. Although that type of cancer, it's harder to notice any symptoms at first. Well, we've got one other lovely lady we want to talk to and hear her story. And this is Sylvie Alsopp. She's another amazing supporter and Grace fundraiser. And Sylvie, I know you've had your own journey with cancer, and that was during lockdown, which must have made it quite difficult. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, actually, it wasn't during lockdown. I was diagnosed with aggressive ovarian cancer in August 2019, stage 2, grade 3. Actually, this same January in 2019, I had some urinary problem. So I went to the GP and they referred me to a gynecologist. And they did a scan and they couldn't find anything on my ovaries. So I just went along with my life. And in May, I went to Turkey and I felt a bit bloated and I was constipated and the food was not sitting right on my stomach. And I thought, I blame the Turks for their food. So I just thought, something not quite right, but maybe I've got IBS, which I was told I had IBS in the past. So I came back from Turkey end of May. I tried different food for a couple of weeks, and at the beginning of June I said, enough is enough, I'm going to see my GP. So I went to see the GP. She did some further tests, a transvaginal test, and sent it 2 weeks later. It came up non-conclusive. Well, I went, and she said, well, we're going to give you a scan in 3 weeks. And so I waited, but about 3 days later, I was in pain. So I said, no, it's enough. I'm really in pain. And things rolled on from there, things speed up a little bit. But unfortunately, what people don't know is that when I went to hospital for my scan, my CT scan, I was sent for CT scan, and it was traumatic. They sat me down after the scan, put a shield around me and put me in a wheelchair. I said, why are you putting me in a wheelchair? I said, do not worry, we're going to call the doctor. The doctor is going to be called. So the doctor arrived and he said, I'm ever so sorry, but I said, have I got cancer? I know I've got cancer. He said, no, you've got a blood clot in your lung. So because ovarian cancer can thicken the blood and you can end up with a blood clot. So I was sent back up with syringe to administer myself and a syringe dispenser. So I was not too happy about that and thought it's going to delay my surgery now. So in order to have this ovarian surgery, I had to have an IVC filter put into my artery, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But it's to stop all the blood clot during the operation coming to your heart or your lung, just to stop any events like that. So I had the operation and they thought I was stage 3 ovarian cancer, but in fact, I was diagnosed with stage 2B. I was going to be 1, but unfortunately, they discovered a small amount of cell at the bottom of my, sigmoid colon. So they had to partially remove a part of it. And I was given after that, a month later, after having a DVT acquired in hospital, I was given chemotherapy for 4 months, and that was it. So I was after the 4 months, I wasn't given any medication. I felt like I was in a barge without the hose. I wasn't given like breast cancer, something to prevent the cancer coming back. So I felt quite depressed about it because I felt that I wanted that drug, but because I was stage 2, I would not have that drug. So, I felt it was locked down then. And my plan was to recover in France and see my family, but that was not possible. So I entered in a bit of a depression. So in order to recover from the depression, I was advised by an oncologist to go to the cancer center and to get to have some therapy, which has worked beautifully. So I'm glad to say now I am recovered and my physical health is good and my mental health is so much better. So that's very important to me. The future is uncertain, of course, but I'm much better to combat any obstacle along my way. So I'm just ready for anything now. So I come. I'm doing a bit of a sponsor for Grace Charity because just to show my gratitude, but also for proving that even if we've got ovarian cancer, if we're still well, we can fight. We can carry the fight. And I'm going to be here until I'm well and standing. I will struggle. I will combat all the way. So, So apart from that, if you've got any question.
No, that's brilliant, Sylvie. That's so good and especially that you're now feeling more positive about it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a key part of getting well is having a positive mindset. It's going to really, really help you along with any medical interventions that you need. We're just going to take another short break now, and then we'll be back.
Okay, thank you.
Brooklands Radio believes your health matters.
Sound familiar? With more people working at home and less time to worry about our posture, it's unsurprising that back and neck pain, migraines and sciatica are all on the rise. Luckily, there's somewhere that's got your back. West Chiropractic in West Byfleet prides itself on being a practice helping people from Surrey and beyond with enthusiasm, experience and expertise. With plenty of 5-star reviews, it's a place you truly can trust. Book a free discovery visit now to speak with one of their expert chiropractors and find out how to move forward with a programme tailored to your situation. Visit them online at westchiropractic.co.uk.
There's no doubt that running a business is tough, but at the moment it's even tougher than ever. And that's where we can help. Plan C are a team of Surrey business professionals offering free advice for local businesses during these testing times. We offer solutions to your most pressing business challenges. From marketing to human resources, PR to Google ads, business strategy to website design. Post your questions at yourplanc.co.uk. We'll put them to the team and come back to you with our thoughts, observations, and most importantly, practical solutions. It's a free service, so why not see if we can help? www.yourplanc.co.uk.
Emily, Modern Age Middle Life. It's a podcast. It explains everything that's puzzling in this world.
Will it explain to me why people are putting tears in cocktails?
Yes, that's in one of our podcasts. Will it tell us the dangers of knitted underwear?
Yes. Will it address the benefits of having a David Beckham chocolate fountain in your front drive?
Yes.
Will we talk about pipistrills an awful lot?
The pipistrel bat?
Yes.
I think we might do. Modern Age Middle Life, 7:30, middle Friday of every month. Brooklands Radio.
Brooklands Radio.
It's Jill Bennett on Brooklands Radio.
Welcome back. So we're here, we're still talking about September being Gynecological Cancer Awareness Month, and we've got lots of lovely guests with us here today. We've heard all of their stories and we've heard about the roles that Dr. Norman and Christina are undertaking at the moment. And we've got some amazing fundraisers. We all know that the earlier cancer is detected and treated, the greater chance a woman has of surviving. So would you all like to give a piece of advice, something based on what happened to you that might help someone who's listening, who might be experiencing something or maybe having some resistance from a doctor? And then we'll come to Alex last, if that's okay, and then he can pick up the threads and tell us more. Maybe if we'll start with Helen.
Right. I think if anything is unusual for you, you really do need to sort it out, even if what you're experiencing doesn't tick the symptoms that are right at the top of the list that you might see published. So, for instance, for endometrial cancer, the symptom that everyone talks about is for a postmenopausal woman, bleeding, which I didn't have, or at least if I did have it, it wasn't really discernible to the human eye. I just had this rather pathetic watery discharge. And I think if I hadn't started to experience some pain as well, I probably would have delayed going to the doctor, in which case I wouldn't have had possibly the benefits of an early diagnosis. So I think anything you feel isn't quite right, you need to go and see your GP.
Good advice, Helen. Pandy?
I would completely agree with Helen there, and would just like to reiterate that, nobody knows your body better than we do they? And also to push the GP a little bit, because the symptoms are so subtle for ovarian. Anything that is untoward, it just feels a little bit off. Go see them, but push if they poo-poo it. You just need to keep going back, keep going back, really.
Yeah, thank you. And Sylvie?
I totally agree with these lovely ladies, but I would say that for me, in my opinion, you should stick to doctors and you trust, because I kept changing doctors because whoever was available. And I think if you stick to one good doctors and you trust, a good GP, and he gets to know you, you build a rapport, and that could be picked up a bit easier because he gets to know you a bit more. And also, if you've got only one symptom, don't think you don't have ovarian cancer, because you could only have one of the symptoms and not 5 or 6 of the symptoms. Sometimes I thought, I haven't got that symptom, so it can't be ovarian cancer, but you can only sometimes have one, and it's enough to have ovarian cancer.
Yeah, good advice, Sylvie. And I think that's the ideal opportunity to bring in Dr. Norman, because clearly he is a very switched on doctor who has been in the role he has with being the primary care lead for Surrey and Sussex Cancer Alliance, is so much more aware than perhaps other doctors are. What advice would you give, Dr. Norman?
Thank you, Jill. First of all, thank you for those stories, and it is actually good to hear that some of those GPs really were on the mark and did make the referral on what seemed quite mild symptoms to some of you being so fit and healthy. I am going to reiterate, it is absolutely unusual for you. If it is something different that is bothering you, that it is just something different, something new, go and tell your GP. I absolutely agree as well. It's nice to have a GP that trusts you. Sometimes there are people that walk through the door and I just know there's something afoot here, and this is not the person that I know. But Helen, you obviously don't go to the GP that often, and that sends alarm bells as well, because hold on, here's a person that really doesn't come that often, and so then you don't have that rapport. And Pandy, crikey, so fit and healthy. This can't happen to this person, and GPs are blinded like that as well. So fantastic that they went for that. But if say they hadn't have gone and organised that scan or organised a blood test, what would you have done? Would you have gone to another GP? Would you have kept going? And I think that is difficult, because you sort of, sometimes GPs can still be saying, the GP's told me it's all right. And I would absolutely positively reinforce, no, if there's something that you just don't feel right, don't sit on it. It is easy to arrange a blood test and an ultrasound scan, and these are quick things. And for the majority, they rule in or out. Most of the time, it's fine. But the symptoms are so mild in those earlier stages, and we've got to try and really shift it to those earlier stages. So the NHS is just going to have to do more tests, I'm afraid. And if we want to get early diagnosis and therefore better outcomes, we do more tests. And that's why I'm trying to support getting more scanners, getting education out there, so that we don't what we call gatekeep, but we gate open to investigations to support you. It's a two-way process, and hopefully by doing these sorts of things, educating more and actually this sort of thing where you're in your own groups as well. So if somebody's just not quite right, get down to your GP, don't sit on it. And it just gets that word out there. So something like this that just starts that ball and that conversation rolling really helps. Hope that helps a little bit.
That really helps. Thank you. If at the moment it's obviously more difficult to physically see a doctor, when we're having telephone consultations, I guess the thing to do is just to really insist and say, look, I'd feel much more reassured if I could have a blood test and a scan. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. Practice is working in different ways at the moment, but absolutely everybody should have a face-to-face appointment if they would like one. And we're all aware of the struggles of the NHS and capacity at the moment. But if somebody has got symptoms that need investigation, like presenting with gynecological cancers, tummy pain, etc., I would be insistent on a face-to-face if it's not offered. And so again, if it is a good GP that you trust, there will be no concerns about offering that, I would hope.
Fantastic, thank you. And finally, can we just go back to Christina and say, Christina, is there, obviously you've noticed lots of things during your trials and your research in mirrors. Is there any piece of advice you'd like to give to everybody?
So I would definitely echo the pieces of advice that we've received from Helen, Sylvie and Pandy. But the thread that I've really noticed with my mirrors ladies is, and maybe it's a lockdown thing, a pandemic thing, but a number of these ladies presented with urinary tract infections and they were treated with antibiotics and they weren't getting any better. So they had changes in their bladder habit that were thought to be quite reasonably, I guess, urinary tract infections, but actually they were a sign of ovarian cancer. And I think if you are presenting perhaps around the time of the menopause or even, you know, in your 40s with urinary tract infections when you've never suffered with them before, maybe that's something that should be triggering people's minds. So, you know, the message about bloating has come, and that is a red flag. If somebody says, I feel really bloated, people pick up on that. But I think if you come with what sounds very much like a urinary tract infection, I don't think that would necessarily make people think they've got ovarian cancer. And actually I've had one lady outside of the study who presented with urinary tract infections and ended up having, you know, a slim lady like Helen having a very high grade endometrial cancer. So I think it is these subtle signs. And I think the second thing I'd say is be persistent. You know, if it's not right, you know, doctors aren't there to make mistakes or miss things, but clearly common things are common. But if the initial treatment you're given doesn't make it better, you're treated for a urinary tract infection quite appropriately, but you don't get better, come back, say it's not right, you know, perhaps request a scan or a blood test, and that may help jog people's memory. Because the GPs, I've had stories of GPs being fantastic, you know, really on the ball, really quick getting people in, particularly with different difficult times over the last year. So
thank you all. That was just some amazing stories, some fantastic fundraising, 2 medical professionals giving us brilliant advice, and lovely Gemma organising it all. So I'd just like to say thank you to everyone. It's a really, really important topic. And I think one key message I'll repeat again is the earlier any of these cancers are detected, the greater the chance you have of surviving. So please, go to your GPs, get the smallest symptoms checked out, insist on having further tests if you really feel that you want to have your mind put at rest. And I'm sure we'll be back to this topic in the future. So thank you all so much for joining us today.
Brooklands Radio believes your health matters.